Elon Musk is now $50 billion poorer after a judge ruled he was not entitled to the $55 billion pay package that he negotiated for himself back in 2018 for being CEO of Tesla. And now, on the one hand, I get it, because $55 billion is truly an insane, as I think the judge put it, an unfathomable amount of money. And I even like the reasons, to a degree, that the judge ruled this way. I just think that Elon Musk is actually the wrong target for this. That is the subject of today's episode. Let's get into it. All right, backing up here, in 2018, Elon Musk negotiated what some called the most radical compensation plan in history. Specifically, Andrew Ross Sorkin, who is a longtime financial reporter, called it the most radical compensation plan in history. He said, the CEO of Tesla is announcing a radical new compensation plan. It could be the most radical compensation plan in history. So why was it so radical? Because Elon Musk fundamentally was putting so much on the line. Basically, Elon had structured this deal such that, yes, he could make an unfathomable amount of money, $55 billion. But in order for him to do that, he was also going to have to hit some crazy metrics, some crazy targets. And if he didn't hit those crazy targets, he could potentially wind up making zero, literally no money for being CEO of Tesla. More recently, again, Andrew Ross Sorkin, longtime business journalist, in hindsight about the plan, he said, the truth is, I thought the compensation plan was the most skin in the game in history. Isn't that what we want when we say pay for performance? So again, Andrew saying here, yes, Elon had all of this crazy upside, but he would only get this massive payday if shareholders also got a massive payday. So let's talk about why that is here. The structure of this deal for Elon was essentially this. Basically, two things would have to happen, and then Elon would get a payday. So every time that Tesla gained $50 billion in market cap being the price of a share multiplied by the amount of shares outstanding, every time that Tesla got $50 billion more in market cap and hit certain operational metrics, so revenue, EBITDA, certain things about how the company was run, when those two things happened, Elon would get an additional 1% of Tesla. So he would get 1% of Tesla stock. And there were 12 tranches to this. At each tranche, it was another $50 billion in market cap and another operational metric that had to be hit. And then he would get an additional 1% of Tesla stock, meaning that in all, he could get an additional 12% of Tesla stock if the whole deal worked. I think it's important to understand this piece as well, that what we're talking about here was him getting a percentage of equity in Tesla. I think sometimes when people see these numbers, they see like $55 billion compensation or whatever, they almost picture it like this is cash, like Elon negotiated for himself to be handed $55 billion. And that's not the case here, right? Elon was negotiating for equity. And in some ways, my take on this would be Elon cares more about having control over Tesla than the money itself at this point, given how just crazy rich he is. So I think this was his way of negotiating for more control over Tesla, even more than it was about the money or the dollar amount. I mean, he still hasn't sold any of the shares that he got as part of this pay package. So like he was not trying to liquidate these shares and, go live his happy billionaire life on an island somewhere. In any case, at the time that Elon negotiated this, the market cap for Tesla was $59 billion. So if Tesla had gone from $59 billion in market cap to $100 billion, Elon Musk would have been paid nothing, because that wasn't the $50 billion extra market cap that they would need. It only kicked in starting at $109 billion in market cap. Now, Elon also, every time he got paid out this stock, he would have to hold that stock for 5 years. It would vest. So this was intended to be a plan that couldn't really be gamed. This is what you hear people saying, because he would get the stock, but then he had to hold on to the stock. So it wasn't like he could artificially manipulate the stock price, make it go really high, hit his numbers, and then immediately sell the stock, which again, we know he wasn't looking to do anyway, but that was embedded within the plan. Okay. Now, for Elon to earn all of his compensation, the full $55 billion, the market cap of Tesla had to go from $59 billion in 2018. It had to hit at least $650 billion by 2024. And it's important to understand how this was viewed at the time. So this was seen by experts at the time as, and I think this was their like official terminology for it, fucking bananas. That like, the idea that this company in 6 years was going to go from a $59 billion market cap to a $650 billion market cap was insane. Again, Andrew Ross Sorkin, when he went on the air in 2018 to announce this pay package, he said this: if somehow magically he would get the company to $650 billion in market cap, which is actually what the plan calls for, if you can believe it, he would get $55 billion in compensation, or else he gets absolutely nothing. So again, this is a longtime financial and business journalist literally referring to this plan as magical, as the idea that he's going to get it to $650 billion in market cap as magical. You have more recently investor and venture capitalist Chamath Palihapitiya, who studied Tesla. He's friendly with Elon Musk, but he was following Tesla very closely at the time. He said this recently about when he heard about this compensation plan back in 2018. He said, "When I saw this pay package, I thought he's making a mistake. This is unachievable. I thought the probabilities were in the low single digits." So again, saying that when he saw this in 2018, he thought there is no way Elon's going to pull this off. He can't hit these numbers. He's making a mistake. Not only did Elon hit these numbers, he hit them by 2020. The market cap of Tesla went from $59 billion to $650 billion in 2 years. And he also hit the operational metrics as well, whatever they were, the various, again, 12 tranches, revenue, EBITDA, I don't know the specifics on that, which is crazy. Now look, there's market factors, there's other things to this than just Elon Musk. Certainly would not give him all the credit, but he gets a lot of credit. Like that is nuts. It honestly reminds me, John Oliver did a whole piece about Elon Musk, and he closed the piece on Elon Musk by basically saying, in doing the research on this episode that he put out, his feelings on Elon changed, which is that he actually left more impressed by what Elon had achieved, but also more concerned about the fact that Elon was achieving them because he's got he's got a complicated personality and he's got a lot of power in this world. But that's how I feel. Like every time I dive into something with Elon, I'm like, God damn, it is impressive that you are doing this. So again, the fact that he hit these goals is so amazing. And I think it's sometimes easy in hindsight to look back now and go like, oh my gosh, this crazy $55 billion pay package. But it's so important to contextualize it and understand that at the time, people did not think that he was going to hit this. And this brings us to today, to the controversy that's going on right now, and the fact that the judge has ruled that Elon is not entitled to this $55 billion. And I think it's really important to understand the details of this, because the judge in this ruling actually did not say, Elon, you don't deserve this $55 billion, though I imagine she feels that way. She actually may have alluded to that in the ruling. But the heart of the ruling is actually this, that the board did an insufficient job as fiduciaries for Tesla, the company, when they negotiated, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, when they negotiated this deal with Elon. Basically, she's saying this board is not independent enough from Elon. They're frankly a bunch of Elon sycophants. They're Elon's brother, they're Elon's good friends. It's people who have very close ties to Elon. So her point is, this was not a negotiation. Elon essentially said, this is what I want. And ironically, the compensation plan changed over time. It became less favorable to Elon because Elon changed the deal to make it less favorable to him. So she's saying that like Elon dictated this whole process, the board was not independent enough, and therefore the process by which this $55 billion number was arrived at was flawed, and that negates the whole package. And at the core of this, she's also saying you could have gotten Elon for less money. He already owned 22% of the company. He was already fairly incentivized to do a good job by Tesla. You didn't need to give him this much, and you should have negotiated it down. So specifically, she wrote in her opinion here, she said, swept up by the rhetoric of all upside, or perhaps starry-eyed by Musk's superstar appeal, the board never asked the $55.8 billion question. Was the plan even necessary for Tesla to retain Musk and achieve its goals? To which I say, it's not a bad point. It's not a bad point. And I do think that board coziness to CEOs is a massive problem in today's corporate environment. Like, it is arguably like the problem. Boards not doing their job in private markets and public markets is like arguably a major problem just generally. Corporate governance is something we could use more of in this country. One of the best explanations that I've heard for why CEO compensation in general has gotten so out of whack, and specifically why executive compensation has so far outpaced worker compensation in this country. I'm sure we've all seen the charts showing how that's occurred. One of the best explanations I've heard for why it's happened comes from Scott Galloway, who's no friend of Musk, we should say, but that's a separate issue. And it's basically this. Boards are often quite friendly with their CEO. Chad, the CEO, is the main point of contact for the board about the company. They go golfing together, they hang out at board meetings together, and of course, the boards don't have that same kind of a relationship with the workers of the company. They have that relationship with Chad. And so when it comes time to determine Chad's compensation, what happens is the board calls in a compensation consultant, and the compensation consultant comes in and says, okay, other CEOs in this general field, other CEOs that are like Chad, they are making this much money on average. And then the board goes, okay, cool. Well, that's great to know. And we love Chad, and Chad's our buddy, and we think he's great. So we're going to pay him a bit above the average compensation for CEOs that are like him. And then you multiply this happening across all different companies across decades. And what happens is every year, the average just moves up and up and up and up a little bit, because everybody keeps paying their CEO a little bit better than average. And then that moves the average up. And then the next person pays their CEO a little bit more than the average. And then that moves the average up. And so you have this ballooning of the CEO compensation because of this cozy relationship between the board and the CEO. And the workers are not reaping the benefits of that at all. Let's take a look for a minute. Just indulge me here while we take a look for a minute at the compensation packages for other CEOs of auto manufacturers. And let's start with Ford. Ford's CEO is a man named Jim Farley. In 2022, Jim Farley made $23 million. He had a base salary of $1.7 million, which means no matter what happened at that company, this man was paid $1.7 million. Do you think he needed to pay that much? Do you think the board pushed really hard and said, actually, it should be, I don't know, feels like he probably would have taken the job for less, but who am I? Okay, stock awards. He got stock awards north of $16 million. He got $1.4 million in retirement and other benefits, another incentive for $3.7 million. I mean, whatever. The total here was $23 million. Now, that's in 2022. Now, what happened to the Ford stock price in 2022? Very interesting thing. The Ford stock price in 2022, the year in which their CEO made $23 million, it went from like $25 in the beginning of 2022 to like $10 at the end of 2022. So the share price was literally cut in half. Shareholder value was halved. Meanwhile, the CEO made $23 million. Why do I point this out? I don't know anything about Jim Farley. You know, maybe he's a great CEO. I'm sure there were factors that were out of his control. But I point this out to say, sure, Elon Musk made $55 billion, but shareholders 10x'd the value of their shares over the course of that period of time. Jim Farley made $23 million, and shareholders lost money. This is what we mean by pay for performance. Let's look at another one, though. Okay, Mary Barra, we love a good girl boss. She's been at GM for like 40 some years. She's got a very cool American dream story. Mary Barra is the CEO of GM. She made $40 million in 2022. She has made hundreds of millions of dollars since she took over as CEO of GM in, I believe it was like 2013 or 2014. What has happened to the share price of GM in over her tenure? Basically stayed flat. I mean, there's been lots of ups and downs and spikes, again, market dynamics, but over the, whatever it's been, 8 years, 10 years that she has been CEO, the stock price started in the 30s and it has ended right now where we are planting the flag. It's still in the 30s. So this woman has been paid hundreds of millions of dollars while shareholders who held the share over her tenure have made virtually no money. Again, all of this is more complicated than I'm making it out to be. You own stock options, you can invest those stocks, you can sell them at their high. Like, I'm not trying to necessarily pick on any of these people in particular. I'm trying to highlight the fact that Elon Musk's compensation is actually a much better deal for shareholders than these packages that we're looking at here. So while maybe Tesla's board is not independent enough from Musk, or was not independent enough from Musk in 2018, they managed to get their shareholders a better deal than these other boards did, which is to say nothing of the fact that the negotiations between Mary Barra and her board and Jim Farley and his board were also definitely not hostile. Like, these negotiations just aren't hostile. Like, the CEO wants to make the board happy, the board wants to make the CEO happy. Like, these are amiable relationships. But hold on here, because there's an argument that, well, right. I mean, sure, you could argue the specifics of Elon Musk's deal and maybe say that you like this compensation package better than you like some of these other compensation packages. But fundamentally, the judge is attacking this issue that you, Carly, me, I care about, which is this crazy CEO pay that is very much rooted in the fact that CEOs have a cozy relationship with their board. So shouldn't I be happy that the judge has ruled in this way, even if I don't think that Elon is the perfect poster child for problematic behavior in this particular instance? Other ways, he is the poster child for problematic behavior. But in this specific instance, he's not the poster child for it. Shouldn't I still be happy that the judge ruled this way? Because it signals a crackdown on CEO compensation that is out of control because of the cozy relationships between boards and their CEOs. And the problem is, I don't think so. I don't think that this is going to have the kind of ripple effects that the biggest optimists think it's going to have. And I don't think it will for these reasons. Elon's case is unique. There were a number of different pieces of this ruling that the judge had to find to be able to ultimately void this compensation package. For one thing, she had to find that Elon was a controlling shareholder. Elon, at the time he negotiated this in 2018, he had about 22% or somewhere north of 20% of Tesla stock. And she argued that on the basis of him having 22% of Tesla stock and the fact that he was this sort of superstar, megastar, public figure, whatever, that those two things meant that he was a controlling shareholder of Tesla. Had he not been deemed a controlling shareholder of Tesla, she could not have then had these follow-on effects and voided this pay package. Very few CEOs, unless they were the founder of the company, have anywhere close to a 20% to 20% plus shares in their companies. They have like 1% of the company, if even that. And it's very hard to imagine that future judges are going to find that CEOs of these public companies have controlling shareholder interest in a company with like 0.3% of the company in their ownership. And also, most CEOs aren't the level of superstar megastar that Elon is. These other CEOs who are just getting paid these normal comp packages that are crazy, like they don't have that same swagger to them. I just don't see how you find them controlling shareholders, which means that this ruling that was found with Elon would then not apply to any of those other CEOs. What's more, there was another piece to this, which is that the judge basically ruled that the Tesla shareholders, who, by the way, ratified this. So Tesla shareholders also had to vote to approve this pay package by Musk. She basically said that the proxy document, the document that those shareholders were given to vote whether they wanted to ratify this Musk pay package, that they did not have enough information, that they weren't given enough information about Musk's personal relationship to the board members to be making the vote in good faith, essentially. So that was another piece that she had to find in order to void this pay package. And again, I think like at best, what comes of this is boards and CEOs or whoever are much more careful about the language they use when they prepare these proxy documents to give to their shareholders for a vote. But let's be honest, even if they had been better about preparing the proxy documents, the proxy statements, whatever the phrase is, for their shareholders in this Tesla deal, Tesla shareholders still would have ratified this. 80% of them, 70% of them, something, ratified this deal. And had they had more information about how close Elon was to his board members, A, they wouldn't have been surprised. B, they would have still ratified this. So in some ways, this ruling feels like it's sort of hinging on a series of technicalities that are somewhat easy for future boards and CEOs to button up, such that they're not going to end up with a ruling like this. So I would actually feel Elon deserves his $55 billion, but I would feel happy about this ruling if I actually believed that it was going to have some sort of ripple effect throughout the corporate sector. But at this point, I have not heard anybody convincingly argue that that's what's going to happen. So anyway, I guess the conclusion of this piece is corporate CEO compensation absolutely feels like it's gotten out of control and that it should be reined in to some degree. But also, Musk should get his $55 billion. All right, folks, that's today's episode. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.